Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gorman Ruggiero, and I'm the author of a book called 30 Plays for Child Actors. This book is a culmination of over 40 years of work in the theater, training children and teaching them communication skills so they can be better communicators as well as better actors. What I'd like to do is discuss tonight why I wrote all these plays and my purpose in sharing them with you. I've chosen 30 of my favorite plays from about 90 or 100 that I have, and I put them in this collection. In 1982, when I began working with children, I was walking through a park, and I saw a bunch of children gathered around in a little huddle, and they were looking at a device, a little electronic device, and they were mesmerized by that device. And I just thought the whole scene was a little strange, a little odd. It struck me as weird. But then I thought, my goodness, that's the future if we don't be careful. So the reason I started working with children and developing all these plays is so I could teach children communication skills, the most important educational process they can ever go through, more important than any other subject. So before I go into more details of this, I would like to show you a video, a short 6-minute video of some of my work that I've done in China that will also explain some of my philosophy and methodology. So please enjoy this video and feel free to comment, ask questions, and I'll see you on the other side. My name is Gorman Ruggiero. I'm a theater director, actor, producer, and playwright. I have worked with children for over 35 years developing theater productions for children, with children as the actors. When I came to the school, the English Experimental School, we talked about doing a version of Snow White. And through our discussions, I was really impressed with the teachers and the administration. they were talking about doing something with Chinese culture. So I asked them, well, maybe I can adapt the play with Chinese cultural elements, which we did. 50 children, which is unusual. There's not very many plays out there with 50 characters, but we have Snow White, we have the 8 pandas, we have bumblebees and plum blossoms and all kinds of other characters. And each child has speaking parts, movement, dance, and they sing. The purpose of this camp is to introduce children into the wondrous world of theater, to teach them acting, to teach them to use their imagination, but most importantly, to communicate. Teach them how to communicate using physical, emotional, and intellectual content. I've been preparing for this camp for about 3 weeks. When I found out we had 50 students, I knew I had to write a play because there's very few plays out there with 50 characters, and you'll never find any for children with speaking parts. So I wrote this adaptation of Snow White with the intent of making sure every child had speaking role. I wrote the play. I hired some fantastic artists. Rena is our dance director, choreographer. Hem is our musical director. He's also a virtuoso pianist. And we put our heads together and came up with a variety of different ideas to work with the songs and the dances. And I let them design their own work because they're the experts. So we kind of put our heads together and we came up with some really nice, interesting pieces that the children could perform. Each and every single child has improved in levels of confidence, articulation of English, and especially understanding emotional content and how to express it. Yes, everyone.
Hello, my name is Rena. I'm a dance director and a choreographer for the camp. I can see a lot of changes. They really, first day they were very shy, and day by day they really start to show them personality, confidence with us. It's really cute that kids can change in so fast time.
I'm William Brico from Manila, Philippines. I'm happy to join this company to make this winter camp. So I can teach them the nursery rhyme as well, alphabets, colors, like shapes, and etc. for the kids. Ever since the camp started, I saw a lot of them there doing well.
First of all, children, listen to me. Come to me. That's what I would like to say. I would also like to say Anjing and Ting Ma. But most importantly, I would like to say you did all your work. You made an agreement with me that you would work hard and have a great show, and you kept your agreement. And I want to thank you for keeping that agreement. Now, today, during this performance, just go and have fun. You did all the work. Remember your positions and go have fun.
Be themselves, relax, don't be shy, and don't think that they can do it, because I don't believe that I can do it. It's just I don't want to do it. So they must be relaxed, and everything will be okay.
Before you go out, just keep practicing, whatever they want.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I always enjoy watching those beautiful children. None of them had ever been in a theater production before. And as they said, they were shy and reticent. As Rena said, they were shy, reticent, very stiff. By the time the performance came, they were very explosive and very exciting children. I have a question or comment. Reginald McBride commented, "Hi, Mr. Ruggiero. How are you tonight?" I'm very good. Thank you, Reginald. Very good. I appreciate your comment. So I want to go back, and you can interrupt me with questions, comments, or observations or critiques anytime, and I'll stop and go on. But what I'd like to talk about what my mission has been for many, many years in teaching children communication skills using theater as a vehicle. So Apple Rutherson commented, "That's so adorable." They are, aren't they? So in any case, so when I first saw the children with the digital device in the park, I thought about that afterwards, and I wrote a play called Stefan the Pip and the Stolen Star. And it was about children who were trapped in a parallel world, much like the world we see now that's actually real, the world of digital. Good to see you, Hyacinth Cabales. Thank you. So back then, I didn't foresee the digital landscape that we have today. I didn't foresee the addiction to media, social media, cyber screens all over the place. Alani Jacinth says, "Because of the video, I was inspired to join the community theater here in my area." Good for you. I'm going to say something about community theater. I wish I had more time to talk with you, but I'm going to say this. Community theater is the backbone of the theater in America. I'm sure that's true in other countries too. Community theater is where most people begin their careers, and it's a great place to learn, experiment, and develop your craft. There are many, many fine community theaters in this country, and I've attended many of their shows. I've worked in numerous ones. So do that, and good luck with you, Alani. Break a leg, as they say. So going back to the fact and the reason why this book is important is that you want children to be able to learn how to communicate interpersonally and intrapersonally. Okay, I'm going to interrupt this as I go along. Hope that doesn't bother you. But Eleanor Livell commented, "I love how the Asian kids get their formal training. I wish to have experienced one myself." Yes, Asian children get more formal training in the arts and martial arts and sports than most people would understand. Part of their issues with acting is that they're very regimented, as opposed to American children who are not very regimented. Most American children come into my room, and my job is to get them organized and create boundaries. Whereas with Asian children, my job is to get them out of the boundaries and out of the straight lines and create spontaneity for them. So that's part of the process. Hi, Gorman. This is Bim. Bim, how you doing, Bim? Bim Laura. Hi, Gorman. Are there specific challenges or joys that come with performing for children's programming compared to other acting roles? I think what you mean is, I think you mean developing performing shows for, yeah. Actually, yes. There's specific challenges. You have to deal with most children who do not understand that acting is actually a craft. Some of the times you deal with children who want to be movie stars, and you have to break them of that habit, because movie stars, you may be a movie star, but that doesn't mean you're a fine actor. Okay. You may be a fine actor, but that doesn't mean you're a movie star. There's a big difference. There are many stars who are more personalities than fine actors. If you can do Shakespeare on the stage for 2.5 to 3 hours, you're a fine actor. If you're a fine actor and a movie actor, you're still a fine actor. You're just not a stage actor. Some very fine personalities go back and forth from stage to movies seamlessly. So back to my mention of the communication skills process. Here, Laura Veal commented, "In training the children, would you consider yourself strict?" Let's look at it this way. I expect excellence from every single child. I don't know if the word strict would be applicable, but I am very, very adamant about them maintaining form. Every art has specific forms, and acting is no different. The physical work, the emotional content, and the facial expressions and intellectual verbal production has to all fit together in a recognizable form in order to communicate specific ideas emotionally and physically to the audience. So I am adamant, I'm not strict. I think the word would be more, I like the children to perform as excellently as they can. And we make that possible through the various techniques that I've developed over the years. What's the difference between drama, theater, and play? Okay, well, the word drama really pertains to the literature of the theater. And I published this book as a dramatic literature. You won't find any stage directions for the most part, and props lists and set design suggestions in this book because I want people to read it. So theater is when you're in front of a live audience, and play and theater and acting is much the same thing. The best actors you will find are children. All you have to do is go to any playground or any home with children, and you'll see them acting and playing and performing and believing. My new granddaughter, who's 3 years old, every time I go there, she's always making me food from her toy sets. She's 100% convinced that she's making me pancakes. That's acting, right? And it's also play. Acting is play. That's why we call them plays. It's a great question. So back to my communication skills process. I want children through these techniques and being involved in theater so they can get away from the media screens and all the screens that they're on all the time, and involve themselves in interpersonal activities with other people live. Shannon T. Sykes comments, such cute kids. How long were you there in China for this video? That particular video, well, I was in China for 8 weeks for that production. I generally have been going to China for 4 to 6 months per year up until COVID. And then I stopped going for about a year and a half. And the last time I went was this previous last January for 3 weeks. And then I was there for 4 weeks in July this past year. And I'll be going back whenever we do another production, probably upcoming. So back to the communication skills. When you look at your child's activities, daily activities, I would like everyone to think, how many hours a day do they spend on a screen? By screen, I mean telephone, video, computer, television, handheld devices, anything, even the screens they use in school for their homework and their research in class. If you add those hours up, you will be amazed at how many there are. Most children perform in front of a screen or work with a screen sometimes 30 to 40 hours a week, sometimes 50 to 60. So they're doing a full-time job. That changes the brain. Okay, so can you tell us about your experiences in notable projects like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel in Mysteries at the Museum on Fox Nation? Oh, I love The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Well, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is a wonderful Emmy Award-winning show that I had the pleasure to be a principal singer upon in 2 episodes. And it was a highly professional group of actors who performed beautiful stories with incredible costumes. They treat their performers like gold. They are just a wonderful group of people to work with. So everything you see on the screen, that's the way most of the people there are. Mysteries at the Museum was wonderful because I got to play in a variety of different roles, and some of them were lead roles. And the producers of that series are still going. There's hundreds and hundreds of episodes. Very, very wonderful to be involved in professional productions. So back to the screens, which is my mission. I want you to think about how many hours your children spend and how many hours you actually spend. So when we look at the brain of a child, we know that it's more like a rainforest than it is anything else. For many years, people looked at the brain and they looked at all the different brain structures and they said, well, this part of the brain does this. This part of the brain is that. The Werner part of the brain is the language area. The prefrontal cortex processes function and ideas. The amygdala is a part of the emotional brain. But what we now know with all the brain science and research that's occurred over the last 30 years is the brain all works in unison. Everything you do affects your brain. For instance, the moment that I got onto this screen tonight till now, all your brains have changed. My brain has changed, and it changes constantly. depending on the external or internal input. Myrtle J. Roca commented, what sparked your interest in writing about training child actors specifically for the theater? It's a great question. So I had my acting company in New York City in 1979 and 80, and I decided to go to Saratoga Springs with my professional adult acting company in the summer of 1980. So I did shows there at the Cafe Lena Theater, which was a very famous theater in Saratoga Springs, New York, USA. And I did The Streetcar Named Desire, and I did Christmas Carol. I didn't want to go back to New York City when the winter came. So I spoke with Lena and said, can I do some work here? So I also decided, in order to make some extra money, I wanted to work with children just to make a few extra dollars, because I knew there was a need and they were interfacing with artists in the local schools. So I went and I worked at the Lake Avenue Elementary School, and I started directing children in classes. And what happened was, after a couple of few weeks, the principal came in and said, Gorman, I'd like to talk with you. And I thought I was in trouble. I might have been doing something wrong, because I worked with children previously, but not a lot. So she said, the teachers want to know what you're doing with these children, because they are listening better in class. They are interacting better in class. They're waiting for somebody to finish their comments before they speak. What are you doing? And I said, well, they can come and watch my classes to see what I'm doing. I'm only teaching communication skills, teaching children how to communicate. That's how I became interested in writing plays that would further children's ability to learn professional communication skills, also valuable in their personal lives. So Logan Rodriguez commented, what do you find most rewarding about working with child actors in the theater? Oh, it's amazing. The most rewarding thing is watching them grow. Watching a reticent child who would not even come out of their shell and wait around for 2 or 3 classes before they even open their mouths. And by guidance and nurturing and a variety of different improvisational techniques and exercises that I've developed over the years, to watch them just blossom. And that includes children on the autism spectrum. Children on the autism spectrum, many are very fine actors. Once you get them acclimated to expressing themselves. But before we do that, we have to teach them what are they expressing. Thank you, Donald Rosenbaum. Appreciate it. So what are we teaching children? I have many games where we teach children how to recognize emotional content and to not fear emotional content. So I have a game called Explosion Tag. And what we do is we play tag. And when you're caught, you have to explode with an emotion, any emotion you want. And you have to make the emotion so big that everybody can recognize it. And then each child recognizes the emotion. And then we go on through that. And that goes on for 20 minutes, maybe a half hour sometimes. Paula J. Forster commented, how do you approach balancing the children's artistic development with their emotional well-being? Well, their artistic development is part of their emotional well-being. Children who can express themselves emotionally are the healthiest children. Children who can understand and recognize emotional content in another person are the most healthy children that we have. Children who are afraid of emotions need to be taught that emotions are not scary. Some emotions are scary, don't get me wrong. But we need to teach children how to deal with scary emotions as well as good emotions. So these games that I develop emotional awareness and which leads to character development for their roles in theater are very, very important. Their artistic expression is really, really important for their emotional well-being. Even dancers and musicians at some point integrate not only their physical abilities with their musical instruments or their body, which is also an instrument for a dancer and an actor. They incorporate their emotional content and their intellectual ideas into their body, into their expression, and expressing their ideas in all 3 ways: emotionally, physically, intellectually, and verbally. Intellectual and verbal are the same. I hope that answered your question. Ava Johnson commented, do you think the current generation of child actors are playing age-appropriate roles? in productions, films, series, plays? That's a good question. I've always been a little critical of high school students doing musicals that were written for Broadway actors at the top of their game. You're talking about taking, and there's nothing wrong with it, don't get me wrong, but I wrote plays. The reason I wrote plays for child actors because I couldn't find any that were appropriate for children to excel in. Now, there are many high schools that have wonderful theater departments and they do great musicals that are absolutely fulfilling for the audience and the actors. But like I said, there were some plays where I've seen high school students walking around on stage with drinks, doing things that I didn't think were appropriate for their audiences or high school age students. So yeah, there's some of that. Some of the films I've seen, I think there were children in situations that I would not approve of. Violence, sexualized scenes. I don't really get involved in any of that. That's not what my mission is for children. My mission is to teach children how to have self-respect, how to communicate their dignity within their work. So a lot of my plays deal with very important and vital themes that children need to learn about while they're growing up. Some of my plays deal with drug use. Some of my plays deal with things dealing with your parents, dealing with bullies. So, and I don't pull punches in those plays, but it's always age appropriate. Okay, so Hyacinth Cabales says, would you think about offering a theater or acting online course? Well, a lot of people are doing this, teaching acting online. I would be more inclined to be able to teach the craft of acting. And yeah, I would teach an online course. I've performed shows online during COVID for friends of mine who had theater companies and they wanted to produce shows, and I acclimated to that. I really prefer to teach in person because once you get an electronic device between two people, you have a barrier, as you can see right now. Some people can break through that barrier, and it's not easy to do, but you can do it. I would consider teaching an online course, but it would not be my first choice. I hope that answers your question. Because my main goal in teaching communication skills to children and adults is to make them better at intrapersonal and interpersonal communication. That's the most important thing children can learn for their professional and their personal lives. So that's what I like to do. So I have about 3 minutes left. Does anyone have any more comments or questions? Again, I'd like you to take my book, make copies of some of the plays, and read it with your friends, your children, your families on game night. Instead of having game night, start off with a 2-minute play or a 4-minute play or a 5-minute play, and then have your games. On movie night, start off reading a play, get everybody warmed up before the movie so they can get an idea of what it is to actually express themselves. So Renee G. Mullins says, what strategies do you use to foster teamwork, communication, and empathy among young performers? Very good question. And the most important thing that we can teach young performers in terms of teamwork and empathy, especially, is make them aware of what emotions actually are. Many of my techniques and improvisational exercises that I've developed for children deal with emotional content, physical content, the expression of ideas, emotional ideas, physical ideas, and intellectual ideas using the body. When children begin to recognize other people's emotions and have to label them, part of the work is naming the emotion, discussing the emotion. That creates a sense of empathy and teamwork because they're discussing each other's characters and each other's roles and what they need to do to make those roles more clear. Lois C. Leonard commented, are there any specific strategies you use to help kids manage stage fright or performance anxiety? Yes. Everything I do, every exercise I do helps children manage stage fright or performance anxiety. What I do in the beginning is here's my rules in class. Number one, you do not have to get up and perform or get involved in any of the improvisational exercises. You can just watch. You don't have to comment or join into the critiquing sessions. You can just watch. The other rule is you just cannot leave the room without permission or without another adult. And the fourth thing is you cannot interrupt my class. Those are some of the initial strategies I use. Normally, children will take a couple minutes, some a couple hours, some a few classes, some a couple weeks before they get involved in the class. But as we reduce their stress by taking away the pressure, the anxiety is reduced. Now, for performances, there has never been a show that my children were excited to get into performing because I drill them. They perform their shows because they're ready to perform. Every child knows all their lines. There's no prompters. They are very confident in their work. That's when they become performers. So I never put a child in a position where they have to perform having anxiety. No, they're eager to get out there and have a great time. They have fun. Shannon T. Sykes commented, ultimately, what is your goal for those who are reading your book? I would like people to read my book and begin to understand why it's important to read plays, interact in plays, perform in plays, whether you're a child or an adult, to improve your intrapersonal and interpersonal communication skills away from digital lives, away from computers, away from texting, away from films, away from the digital world, computers, phones, electronic devices, computer games, to interact with each other live. It's more important now than it's ever been. And I've been doing this for literally 40 years, promoting this need to get away from the digital lives we live. So one of my first plays was called Stefan the Pip and the Stolen Star. I'm going to finish this up in a minute. And that's now turned into a full-length musical. It's in this book. It's a great play for high school students. I've done it with numerous high schools. They love this show. It deals with some very interesting phenomena that we are experiencing today. And the message is absolutely universal and very, very current, even though it's almost a 40-year-old play. But it's been developed over 40 years from a 20-minute piece and has taken many shapes and forms. And now it's an hour, 40-minute musical. And adults can perform it also. So I hope you've enjoyed this session. I've enjoyed all your questions. Get my book, talk about it, show people. There's 2-minute plays to 2-hour plays. So anybody can read it. And thank you very much. And have a great night. I'll be here tomorrow night at 7 p.m.